numbers can mean more than kind of what we've been taught from a young age to believe. So numbers are relative, for one. And I mean, within research, whenever we use numbers, they can represent a whole bunch of different things. They can represent attitudes. Think about if you use a Likert scale of, a scale of strongly disagree to strongly agree. If we put numbers on those, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1 denotes strongly disagree, 5 denotes strongly agree, and everything in between, then those numbers are representing our attitudes on various different things. Or, even if you say, well, rate from a scale of 1 to 10 on how much you agree with this statement, that is measuring your attitude using a relative number based on the scale. It can measure things like amount of crime, if we're doing crime counts, or even proportions of crimes or prevalence, things like that. It can measure something like age. It can measure religion. Again, if we denote what numbers mean what religion. So numbers then let us measure concepts like this, which of course is important within criminological research. And so concepts are not all the same quality in the sense of what we can do with those numbers and with those concepts. So the numbers that express their measurement, they're not all the same. The numbers to express different types of religion are not the same as the numbers to express age, which are not the same as the numbers to express crime count. So, crime rates. So anytime we're using numbers, there are different things we can do with it. So we have to know what those numbers mean. Numbers can be representative of non-numeric concepts. So something like religion, race or gender. These things you can't put numbers on them unless those are just sort of placeholders to represent various different things. But the numbers, they're not numeric in the sense that how we normally think of numbers. So numbers then are a product of two factors. So two things go into what those numbers mean. And first is the relationship to some condition, and then the second is the level of measurement. So that relationship to some condition basically means that we have to know the context of the measurement in order to interpret what that number means. So saying religion equals 3 is meaningless unless we know what religions are assigned to which number. If I just say, my religion equals 3. What does that mean? Is that on a scale of 1 to 10 in terms of how religious you are? Is that the type of religion? And if it is, what does that mean? So that means nothing unless we know, 1 means this, 2 means this, 3 means this. Then it's like, okay, now I know what religion equals 3 means. And if you have something like a personality score of 24, again, that's meaningless unless you know the scale. So, what's the minimum scale? What's the maximum scale? Maybe what's the average scale? If it's like a scale of 0 to 100, 24 means something different than if it's a scale of 0 to 25. Or if it's a scale of 0 to 50, then that might be like, then that's like right in the middle. But if the average is around 48, then 24 might mean something totally different. So we have to know how the numbers that we're using, what the relationship is that they have, with the context that we're measuring them in and that we want to use them in. So we have to know kind of what that context is in order for the numbers to have any meaning or any usefulness. And then there's a level of measurement, because not all numbers are the same, because there are different ways to measure different concepts. So even if that context is we're trying to sort of keep that context the same, it still is going to depend on how then we go about measuring that thing in terms of what those numbers mean. So the level of measurement depends a lot on the concept you're trying to measure, because there are certain concepts that you can only measure at certain levels of measurement, and some you have a little bit more leeway with or freedom to choose. So we've all learned a special type of numbers, the ones that you learn like when you're starting off in like kindergarten or however young you start with learning your numbers and addition and subtraction and then multiplication and division, and even up to using like algebra and some of the higher level computational formulas. That's still like a special kind of number where you can do all those things with those numbers. Some types of numbers don't allow for those calculations, particularly if we are using numbers in different contexts to mean different things. So some numbers will serve representative functions rather than mathematical functions. And that level of measurement will tell you what you can do with the numbers that you have based on the context and based on that level of measurement. So the levels of measurement, there are 4 levels of measurement: nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio. And that order is important in terms of it goes from sort of least complex at nominal to the most complex, or the most that you could do mathematically with those numbers, up to ratio. And so when you're looking at levels of measurement, then that tells you what you can do with the information that you have. And if you want to know more about these specific types of levels of measurement, then you're going to go watch my levels of measurement video, because this one is just sort of talking about the meaning of numbers in general.